We want to visit after the Great Depression, around January 1930. There is a woman by the name of Bonnie Elizabeth Parker that just met a man named Clyde Chestnut Barrow. Even though Bonnie had a husband, she gets together with Clyde and they start having a relationship, but Bonnie's husband was in prison. When you look at Bonnie and Clyde from afar, you could tell that this is a sketchy couple and they're not great citizens. One of the main reasons they started doing criminal acts is that they lived in the poor areas of the country, and when the Great Depression hit, it made poor people's life even harder. After 2 months of being together, Clyde tries to rob someone and he gets caught by the police. Even though Bonnie had a husband, but she fell in love with Clyde and she tried her best to figure out a way on how Clyde can escape prison. Clyde got 2 years in prison and Bonnie tried for 2 years to help him escape prison, but they weren't successful. And in the end, in the year 1932, the prison term was ended and Clyde was finally released. These 2 years spent by Clyde in prison was kinda like college for him, but college for doing criminal things. He went to prison for 2 years and he learned everything he could do to help him be a criminal. And Bonnie loved Clyde so much that she would listen to anything Clyde had to say. In these 2 years in prison, Clyde didn't learn anything but to be a more professional criminal. And that is why after he got out, he was basically teaching Bonnie on how to do it properly. And Bonnie put a little bit too much trust into him. These two created a gang, and from the first month, they started armed robbery from banks and different stores. 2 months passes, and in one of these robberies, Bonnie is arrested. But since it was the first time she had gotten arrested and she was a woman, she only got 2 months in prison. Even though Bonnie didn't go to prison school for way too long, but in this little 2 months, she learned what she needed to. The gang they had created was very active as well. The first week Bonnie gets released from prison, they both attack a jewelry store, and in a commotion, they were forced to kill the jewelry store owner. But the jewelry store owner's wife successfully runs away, and when she reaches the police station, she explained what Clyde looked like. And when she successfully gets away, she goes to the police and tells exactly how Clyde looks like to the police. And after that, Clyde was wanted. They basically put his picture in the papers and they put a wanted sign over his head with a reward. 4 months passes and we get to August 1932. At this time, a police officer has located Clyde's location and he goes to arrest him. But when Clyde realizes it's the police, he pulls out the weapon and shoots away and kills the officer. These two got way over their head. Anything that got in their way, they killed it. And for them, murder started to seem normal. They continue robbing stores and banks, and anyone that steps in their way, they shoot them. They stole a lot of money. That is why they go to Joplin, Missouri, and they try to hide from the police. Even with all that, they get recognized by the neighbors, and a few months later, the police are knocking at their door once again. These two were not planning on going to jail, and that is why when the police showed up, they basically started a war with them, and they killed the police and run away. At this time, they planned to go to Platte City, Missouri to hide from the law. They thought they were safe in that area, but the neighbors that saw these two pull up to their neighborhood immediately called the police and snitched on them. 2 police officers pull up to their house to arrest them. I don't know what they were thinking. If you know there's criminals like this on the other side of the door, this is how you're supposed to pull up to their house.
I got it. Police department, search warrant!
Stop. Put your hands on your back.
We need animal control.
But at that time, they only sent 2 unprofessional police officers, and Clyde immediately kills both of them, and they run away again. The police officers were killed, and Bonnie and Clyde got away, but the police station got something very valuable. They left their luggage behind, and inside the luggage, there were personal pictures of both of them together. The next day, the picture of these two was all over the news, and they even put it on wanted posters all around the cities that these two are on the loose, watch out. We can't say Bonnie and Clyde were murderers or they were serial killers, but what we can say is that anyone that stopped in their way of what they wanted to do, they would be shot. We say this because these two held a lot of hostages, but they never ended up killing them, and they let them go, and they realized that they're in danger if they step in the way. If anybody is constantly running from the police at all times, they're gonna have some driving issues, and when they're running from someone, they're always driving dangerously. In June 1933, when these two were running away from the police in the state of Arkansas, they lose control and go off-road, and Bonnie hurts her leg, and that is why they were forced to go to urgent care. The nurse that was working in Arkansas that fixed Bonnie didn't recognize them, and that is why the nurse bandaged up Bonnie and they were free to go. But their car wasn't good for running anymore. They were forced to steal a car from someone and use that. Clyde was not a bad friend, because after this, he receives message that one of his old friends has been arrested in Missouri and now he's in prison, and that is why he decides to go and help. He goes in front of the prison and kills 3 of the guards in the front door, and then he runs away. This causes the prisoners inside the prison to riot, and it messes everything up, and almost every prisoner successfully runs away, and Clyde's friend was one of them. At this time, everybody knows Bonnie and Clyde now, and their picture is everywhere. Everybody knows that there is a couple, and if you step in their way, you will be killed. No more news comes out of these two until we get to the year 1934, when there's news coming around that these two have killed a police officer in the state of Texas. But Texas was not a good place for people like Bonnie and Clyde, because the citizens of this state don't mess around, and they all carry, and they don't wait for the police because they can take care of it themselves. When these two realized that Texas is not a place to be, they immediately escaped to the state of Louisiana. But when the police realize that these two are heading towards Louisiana, they tell the police in Louisiana that Bonnie and Clyde are coming that way. Since it's the 1930s, there's only one highway that passes in this area. Bonnie and Clyde are driving on this street by themselves, and the Louisiana police are next to this highway, and they're basically hiding behind the bushes. Since they knew who they're working with, they had all the weapons they could. On May 23rd, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde are driving this car and they're heading towards Louisiana. And then they get to a place where the police are camping. More than 10 police officers start shooting their way. Something interesting is that this car is still around, and 112 bullet holes are on the driver's side alone. These two escaped so much, stole so much, and killed so many people that the police did not want them to escape whatsoever. From all the bullets that hit the car, 17 of them hit Clyde and 26 bullets hits Bonnie. When the people of the South realize that Bonnie and Clyde have been killed in this area of Louisiana, they go crazy and start heading over there. They get to the dead body in the car and they try to take souvenirs from the car and the body, and some even take body parts like hairs and ears. But the police immediately stops this and doesn't let them touch these two. 100 years ago, people were kind of different. These two had gotten so famous in the US that when they died, it was nationwide news, and they even make a book out of them, and eventually a movie comes out. And the most famous movie that you might have seen came out in 1960 called Bonnie and Clyde. You could even find the name of these two in rap songs. And the rapper says he wants a girlfriend like Bonnie, but they don't realize that if you have a girlfriend like Bonnie and she gets pissed off, she might shoot you.